Kumusta? My name is Victor, and wow, I haven't done that intro for quite some time, but we're back. We're bringing it back in 2025 just because, I don't know, I like that intro. Anyways, we have the Sirui 40mm 1.33 squeeze anamorphic autofocus lens. Basically, I did not do a studio review of this one. I basically just like, hey, let's take this on a shoot and let's see if it causes issues. If we do, we have the Blazar set, but if not, we'll continue to use it to see if, it performs well. And long story short, it did. Most of the shots that we filmed during that shoot was from this one. I would say like 80%. And oh, if you haven't seen the hostage trailer, it's right here, one of the corners.
It doesn't have to be this hard,
And it's basically just like a fun little passion project. This time around, I did the camera work with this guy with the FX30 and the Sirui. By the way, this is actually like a really great lens combo in terms of like balance. It just balances out properly with the Sirui 40mm. Long story short, like I said in the intro, yes, it's good enough. We managed to complete that day without it having issues. The only issue that I've ran into was because of the scene and how it's laid out. So it was a top angle scene where our friend Wilkie was grabbing the money and putting it in the bag. The problem with that scene, if I put it on center focus, is that it's gonna track also his hand if it goes onto that point. So what I did basically is that I just put it on manual focus and I just rack focused on that one, which isn't too bad. It's not the strongest suit when I pull focus with this one because it's not a cine lens where you can repeat the movement for the focus. So that's kind of like the downside of this one. But I guess you have the autofocus to kind of mitigate that. I would say the autofocus on this one is pretty good. I didn't have any major issues. For the most part, the autofocus was on and it was tracking the eye of our actor, Billy, and he's done a great performance in that shoot as well. The settings that I had was 5.5, which is like transition speed at 5 and responsiveness at 5 to kind of see where it needs to focus. Another big problem for me, at least in terms of autofocus, is that let's turn this on and listen to this. It sounds like a transformer. All right, so let's say I'm trying to get focus, like the camera and then the lamp behind it. That's how it sounds. Basically, the autofocus noise is super loud. Again, this is the first iteration, so I reckon that in the next few versions, this is going to be fixed. And I've told Sirui this. I've always told Sirui what the cons or like what are the bad things about their product so that they can improve that in the future. And I don't know if they're gonna implement it. I think so because they're collecting it from other creators too. So I just do my best and say, hey, here's what's wrong or what I don't like about these. And it's all constructive criticism as well. And it's all objective, it's not subjective. Sometimes it's subjective because I don't know, like if personally, I don't like their logo right here, but that's their branding. And I don't know, like the font text here too. That's subjective. But overall, in terms of performance, in terms of functionality, I give my objective thoughts to you guys and also to Sirui to just kind of like, make better products in the future. For us consumers as well, because it's always good, especially if they have competition. Blazar is trying to compete with them. It's good for consumers. We get the best products possible. Okay, so next up is the image quality, which these are kind of the two things that I focused on in terms of this review, is the autofocus performance and image quality. The image quality, I would say it's good enough. It's not something that I would look for, or it's not something that I prefer. I still prefer the Laowa 1.5 squeeze from their nanomorphs because it's like subtle, but the anamorphic features is there. This one is a 1.33 times crop, squeeze, and it just gives it a little bit of that anamorphic features. Basically, it's still kind of like, you know, their spherical lens. It just added anamorphic features and a little slower autofocus compared to their sniper series. In terms of character, the flares are a little bit weak. If you want awesome flares, there's different anamorphic lenses out there. This is the silver flare, by the way, so it's going to adapt into any sort of light source, any color, whatever it is. It's going to be that color of the flare, but it's enough character to have someone choose it over spherical. Again, it depends on what type of shoot that you're doing. If you're doing product shots, you're not going to shoot it with an anamorphic lens. You're going to shoot it with clean clinical lenses, spherical lenses. If you're starting to write your own short films, or you know, just practicing with anamorphic lenses, this could be a good starter kit because it doesn't really cost that much, and that you don't need to pull focus. But personally, in terms of autofocus, I would choose manual anamorphic lenses in the autofocus state of anamorphic lenses. This is the first iteration of autofocus anamorphic lenses, and I'm excited for the next ones because if it's decent enough now, give it like a year or two, we're gonna have better autofocus performance from these lenses from these manufacturers. So I'm excited. The build quality of this one, full metal construction, pretty good, and it feels good. There's an AFL button. I think you can use this as a custom button. Autofocus manual focus toggle. You have your aperture ring, which is actually pretty solid. You can declick it so it's smoother if you do need that. Front thread millimeter is 77 millimeter. So I think that's it. I think it's a great balance for an FX30. I don't think so. I think this is a good starter anamorphic lens, but if I want to shoot with anamorphic, this wouldn't be my first choice. I would always go with my preference, which is kind of like it's sitting somewhere between, and the Laowa nanomorphs are always that one. Unless something else comes up that I really like, or maybe my taste changes, you know, I grow over time or I change over time. So who knows what I'm going to be liking in 6 months from now, right? But yeah, overall, decent lens. I commend them for making the first anamorphic lens, and it's quite great. I think it's great. I think this is a great start for autofocus anamorphic lenses. I can't wait to have full frame autofocus anamorphic lenses. 1.5 times squeeze is enough for me in terms of anamorphic. I would love to play with a 2x anamorphic soon. And yeah, I just, you know, I'm still learning the world of anamorphic. I'm not a pro in terms of it. I take this to shoots and see how they perform. If you do have any questions about this lens, let me know in the comments down below. But until then, I will see you in the next video. Peace.